Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog, Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man, Frank. I don't have anything interesting to say about you.
I am a man.
I forgot what our episode was going to be about.
My man who's getting his groove back.
That's it. I lost my groove in that very moment. How strange.
It's all right. It's all right. It happens to the best of us.
I'm sorry.
And you are the best of us.
Threw off the Emperor's groove. Sorry. Oh, wow. That was terrible, but I'm not going to cut it. Frank, how are you today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right, man. I'm enjoying having a beer, and we're going to talk about movies, talk about some fun stuff.
I like all of those things. Frank, what are you drinking tonight? For I am also drinking something today.
I am just enjoying a classic, something simple, a Corona.
There is nothing wrong with a Corona. A Corona is great.
A good old Corona. You know, we had some friends come stay with us for the weekend, and their favorite beer is Corona. Like that's what they prefer to drink. And I was like, you know what? I love the simplicity of that. Of just like, just buy a 24-pack of Corona and we'll be good. I'm like, easy. You're so easy to please. Love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm enjoying one of the last Coronas from that 24-pack.
It's crisp. I think what it is, it quenches and it's crisp. And I always like a lime in a beer, like
yes,
and a coconut for that matter.
Ooh.
It helps you go down. So I have no lime in my beer though. I'm drinking what is sadly the last Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale from the Lexington Brewing Company in my fridge. It's the very last one. I will miss it, but it's also getting warmer. So I'll invest
the beer or the weather?
The beer, if it was maybe it is the beer. The weather. But the beer is actually getting warmer by sitting out in the room.
Fair.
Still, it's great though. Tastes like bourbon. Tastes like beer.
Really, it's such a champ of a beer.
It is a champ. Like I think maybe the Kentucky Bourbon. So like the Kentucky Derby. So it's the champion of the Derby.
Yes,
the champion. That champion didn't think he was going to make it, but it turns out he did.
Did he get his groove back?
He got his groove back, Frank, just like Stella.
Yeah,
Frank. I was thinking about this, so I'm gonna tell you about how this came about. I was thinking about
please do.
Characters in movies that retire or in essence lose their groove and have to get it back somehow, and that's like the plot of the movie, and because it's a very popular plot of a movie, and so it got me thinking about what are all the movies where I've seen that exact thing play out, where you're like, oh, I lost my groove. I learned something about myself, and now I got my groove back. And so, but specifically, mostly about retired characters, they've retired from their life, or they've grown up in some way, and from their previous life, and and they have to move on, because there are characters that like Spider-Man 2, he loses his groove.
Okay,
I'm back. My back.
First thought when you mentioned this topic was Spider-Man 2?
Which is a good, I got my groove back story, but he's not retired. He's like Spider-Man, and then he gives it up and gets it back all in the movie. I was thinking more about movies where they don't have it at the beginning of the movie. They've already lost the groove. This started because my daughter has become interested in Peter Pan, which is an excellent thing to be interested in. Apart from the horribly racist Disney movie, which I actually forgot how racist it is.
Oh,
it's like real bad. It's like it's so bad. Yeah, like we have to. I think we have to take her to like a Native American museum to show her yeah. I think we have to like take her to some real cultural events to
make up for it.
I have to take her to a powwow just to make up for it.
If we need to do a land acknowledgement in our house just to make up for
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's like it's so bad. But anyway, so I was thinking of we were watching Peter Pan and reading Peter Pan and all this stuff, and I'm thinking like the superior Peter Pan story is Hook. I love Hook. But it is a Peter Banning, a.k.a. Peter Pan, rediscovers his childhood wonder and imagination to save Neverland and his children from Captain Hook, right? Character who needs to get their groove back. And I was like, whoa, how many movies do I love or know or have seen where characters are just getting their groove back? I made a list. It turns out there's a lot of them, Frank. And I'm like mostly sticking within the action like adventure genre over here. It's crazy. Are you ready for this? We'll talk about each one. If you've never seen the movie, we can move on from it.
Sounds good. Let me hear them.
Okay. Well, first one. Have you seen Hook? Tell me your feelings on Hook.
Yes, several times.
Yeah, I love Hook. I think it is a movie about both Hook and Peter Pan getting their groove back, which is what makes it slightly superior to some other movies. Because it's not like the whole world is like, come on, man, you could do it. It's like literally the two antagonists are like, or protagonists and antagonists, like we need each other to have our groove. One last final battle of good and evil, whatever. And so I love Hook. Drags in the middle like crazy, but it
really does.
Yeah.
It really does. And honestly, that for years that kept me from really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, it was you and our friend Andrew who loved that movie and sort of made me revisit it in a more favorable light because I just had this memory of how it was a boring movie. What was how I remembered it.
Yep.
Because of how it drags in the middle. But now with the watching it again through the eyes of some friends, I've enjoyed it much more over the last few years.
Hook is my number one. This is strange, but Hook is my number one parent model, like of what not to do.
Oh, of what not to do.
Of what not to do. Yeah, like I'm gonna be like, look at that workaholic. Can't wait to be that guy. But that whole movie is about Peter who like grew up, but he grew up badly, like many of us do, like to lose your sense of adventure and fun and goodwill and cheer, and he's just more concerned in 1991 about being on his cell phone answering calls, because 1991, than he is about playing with his kids, being with his mother figure, like being with his wife, like all these things, like, and like as a kid that registered with me so very deeply. Probably mostly because like my parents weren't like that, and so I like saw their good parenting model and like saw that his wasn't good. So I was able to like the movie didn't need to tell me that it wasn't good, but it has stayed with me for 30 something years, like since the first time I saw it. That like don't be like Peter Banning, like at the beginning of that movie. When your kid wants to play with you, you play with your kid. Like, obviously, sometimes, like, you have to go to work when you're at work and, like, things like that. Like, sometimes my daughter will be like, you don't have to go to work today. And be like, well, no, I do, because you won't have food tomorrow if I don't go to work today.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's always working, even when he's home, when they're on vacation, when he, like, everywhere. And I just, like, try to, like, I keep that in my mind all the time. But then also not to just, like, be present with the kids, but also then to like have fun, adventure, fun voices, play, act, like all these things. Like that's what that movie really is for me. So I love it. I
like that and I understand that as from an adult point of view, but you really liked this movie even before you had that,
before I had kids. I loved it when I was a kid. Yeah.
So when you were a kid, what attracted you to it?
Captain
that
Hook.
much?
Captain Hook is amazing and easily one of my favorite characters of all time. Still is.
That's fair. Dustin Hoffman is completely transformed. I didn't know that was him for years.
Yeah. My dad didn't either. I remember watching it when I was in college. Maybe it was on TV, and I was watching it. And he said, "Oh, who's Captain Hook?" And I said, "Oh, it's Dustin Hoffman." He was like, "What? Like, I can't believe that." Yeah, he's amazing.
One of the most like just alarming transformations I've ever seen, where it's just like, whoa, how is that the same person?
Yeah.
Just blew me away to realize that was him.
It is truly magical. All right, I'm going to go to my top of my list. Logan. Wolverine, a.k.a. Logan, rediscovers his sense of purpose and becomes a reluctant hero while protecting a young mutant.
This is such a good one. Oh, my gosh. Yes. I have been wanting to rewatch this movie, actually, recently. It's been on my mind for the last couple of weeks.
That's it. Well, yeah, because Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool, whatever the movie's called.
Yes.
Yeah. It is a great one.
I only saw it in the theater, like when it was released. I haven't seen it since, but it left an impression on me. Like I really, really thought that was a fantastic movie.
It's funny that you say it, because I did it happened to me a couple of years ago. I want to say it was 2020, 2021. So I think it was 2021, somewhere in there, where I was thinking about the movie for a long time, and then I had COVID, and I was like, "What a great opportunity this is! I'm stuck in a room. I'm going to watch Logan." And yeah, it is great. It's just really, really solid. I think the trope of the retired character getting his groove back can be overdone, but only in the way in like what is the world that is like around them and why they've lost it. So like if they rise above the awfulness of their world or whatever, and to be themselves again, it's great. I think Logan is like weirdly always kind of a reluctant hero, and so it like you really root for him and are exasperated by him all at the same time. It's really good.
Yeah.
Right. This one may or may not count because I said Spider-Man 2 doesn't count. But does Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse with Peter B. Parker, does it count? Because he's definitely lost his groove. He's still Spider-Man, but he's like Spider-Man in a bathrobe.
Yeah. Here's the thing. That's Miles' movie, right?
It is.
So, like, if that counts, then, like, so does Star Wars because Obi-Wan is getting his groove back. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Although, yeah, if you take A New Hope in context of the rest of Star Wars, yes. If you take it with just A New Hope, it's really not about Obi-Wan getting his groove back. Not really, because he feels like he already has his groove. In some way. Except your powers are weak, old man. Did I do that? Hold on, I did that wrong. I meant to do this.
Your powers are weak, old man.
That's what I meant to do.
Not bad.
Thank
Honestly,
you.
not bad for On the Fly.
Thank you.
I
need some tea.
Yeah. Yeah, some throat coat. That's I'll allow it, but it's definitely an edge case.
Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, others are less of an edge case, but is this one also an edge case then? Because I'll just put it out there: is Avengers Endgame an edge case? They've all given up 5 years later, and some of it is getting the team back together again. Mostly Thor. That's where
Thor.
Yeah, because it's a team movie. Basically, they got to convince Tony, but mostly it's Thor that like really doesn't get his groove back until the end of the movie.
Yep.
And that's like, it's all his self-doubt. He regains his confidence, and he wields Stormbreaker and Mjolnir at different points. So, like, he becomes worthy again. That was like
I like that.
Okay.
I do like that.
Yeah, it doesn't fit in exactly the same category, but actually, I'm going to skip. You said Star Wars. I want to go to Star Wars. Oh my gosh, where'd it go? Where'd my Star Wars list? There it is. Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Okay, yes.
Because because there's still there are those movies. Like, you don't have to be the main character, I guess, to like get your groove back. But
sure,
does Han Solo ever lose it? Is my question. Is he getting his groove back?
No, but Luke is.
Yeah, definitely Luke is getting his groove back. That is the crux of the movie.
I would say Han has not lost his groove because he and Chewie have continued doing the space pirate thing.
Yep. Okay.
For the smuggling thing. Clearly, it's meant to be like they've had all these adventures, right? They make all these references to the Whoever twins and Kanja Club and everybody else who they've had run-ins with, and they've very much continued what they were doing before.
Yeah, but Luke getting his groove back now. So here's the thing: we like Logan getting his groove back. We like Peter Pan getting his groove back. We like Thor getting his groove back, or whatever. And I have other movies in here between that. But like the division of The Last Jedi is that Luke should never have lost his groove, right, versus it's okay for a character to change in 30 years. Right. And I think, for the record, I think we both need to state on like, time has passed. Are you okay with Luke losing his groove? Or yeah, you are.
I am.
Yeah, I am too.
I was then.
Yeah, I was too.
You know, I didn't have the same. I've never had the same severe. Like, I understand where people come from. Like, but that's not like how I pictured it. It's like that's not how I pictured it either.
Sure. Right.
But like,
I'm not right. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm not a creator. Right.
How I pictured it and how is not necessarily how. Like, whatever. I'm fine with that. And there is this like fundamental. Like, no, that would just never happen. He just would not let that happen. And I get that. Like, that's how I feel about something like Superman, where it's like, no, he wouldn't just give up.
Yes, Superman definitely wouldn't kill somebody. He wouldn't snap Zod's neck or whatever.
Like, I understand that sort of like red line that you draw, where you're like, no, this character shouldn't cross this line, and if they do, it's not the character anymore. Mm-hmm. I get that. I understand that. I just disagree that applies to Luke in the same way.
Yes, I agree. I think if you look. We've talked about this a lot, but if you look at Luke's character, yes, he does mature between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, but he's still a little impetuous, and he can still be selfish.
He's still a Skywalker,
and he's still a Skywalker,
honestly,
and
right?
People are allowed to make mistakes. Like, that's, even Luke Skywalker. Just because he saved the galaxy doesn't mean that he is sinless forever,
right?
Or,
he ran off into the sunset and rode off into the binary sunset and never made a mistake again.
And never, not a single one. Yeah, that just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, plus it means something when he does get his groove back. Like,
right?
Yeah. This movie I found incredibly dull, but I put it on the list. Christopher Robin. Did you see Christopher Robin?
I did not see Christopher Robin, no.
And so it's about, it's basically Hook, but with Christopher Robin, where he's a workaholic and all the stuff, and he reconnects with his friends from the 100 Acre Wood, Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, whatever, and he rediscovers the importance of imagination.
Ewan McGregor?
Ewan McGregor, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And Haley Atwell, actually, plays his wife.
Love her.
I do too, and I love Ewan McGregor, and I just wanted it to be better than it was. I found it pretty dull.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it was. Not a good one. Do you ever see Unforgiven?
No.
Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman. William Money, a retired gunslinger, confronts his violent past one last time to seek justice and retribution. Winner of the Best Oscar in one of the ones in the 90s. It's great.
Nice.
Not a huge Western fan, but this one's real good.
Nice.
But I'll move on since you haven't seen it. Another controversial one, like Star Wars, The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, that's I think, like a template of this kind of movie. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that is very much, he's been out of the game for a long time, and now he's getting back into the game.
Yeah. What's actually quite good about The Dark Knight Rises is that he gets back in the game thinking he's still got it.
Yeah.
And gets severely butt kicked.
Yes.
Yeah, severely. He has to learn to do things differently because he's older. And I think that's isn't that interesting? It's like someone who's like, no, I can still play basketball when I'm 45.
Yeah.
You can't play the same when you were 15.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. You just can't. And so I do like that lesson. I don't love Rises in comparison to Dark Knight and Begins, but I think it is a good, I got my groove back story.
It is. I agree. I agree with everything you just said. Yes. I don't like it as much as the first two, but as far as this conversation goes, it fits perfectly into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's actually a very good example of how to do one of those stories where it felt like it had stakes. It didn't feel like untrue to the character. It didn't like disrespect anything that he did leading up to that movie. Like even the fact that he took that break was not, I didn't feel, negated anything that he did before that. Didn't feel like, well, whoa, he wouldn't do that. Like that's, it fit. It worked for me anyway. They made it work for me.
I do have a bit, kind of like people who say like Luke Skywalker would never make a mistake or whatever. I do have a little bit of like Batman would never retire-ism or syndrome. Sure. Like I don't love Batman retiring. I know like there's precedent for it. He's retired in Dark Knight Returns, not a movie, but a great got my groove back, learned how to do it differently story. Also a good template. Obviously, Dark Knight Rises is part of that template. So like in terms of Rises in the movie, I feel it works because it's like what Jim Gordon and I did actually did work. We cleaned up Gotham. It's the safest city in the country now. So I actually have earned my rest, which is a more realistic way of looking at Batman's mission, I guess. Like eventually, I'm sorry, he wouldn't be 55 jumping off of buildings. He just wouldn't be. When you're 18 or 19 or whatever, and you're like, no, forever. He would do it forever. Like when your back hurts because you slept kind of funny when you're 35. Sorry. Like, no, you wouldn't be doing this forever.
It suddenly becomes a lot easier to picture him being tired by 55.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, sorry. No, there's no way. There's no way. I don't care if he is the most fit person in the world. Like he still could sleep funny and his neck will hurt all day. Like it's just the way that it is.
Yep.
Another great one, Frank. People getting their groove back. The Incredibles.
Yes. Oh, that's the best one yet.
Yeah, it's a great one.
That's the best one yet. Yes, Bob Parr has to do so much to get back in the game.
He does.
Oh, yes. And the beautiful thing about that movie, right, is that like it's all set up within the same movie. Like like it's not like we're talking about a sequel where you had to see like we're talking about Dark Knight Rises, the first two movies are the setup, or Star Wars for that matter, right? Or the first the original trilogy is the setup for Force Awakens and Episode 8,
Last Jedi.
Last Jedi. Wow, can't believe that. That's the first time I brain farted on that. But the fact that it's like such an economical story that's like all in one, and you feel the weight of the character history that you only learned 20 minutes ago, right?
Yes,
like,
that's right. You saw literally one adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's such a good. Pixar is so great at this, but it's one of the best examples, I think, of that.
Yep. And what I think is really powerful about it is that like why he wants to get back in the game, and like because it's all the important part about characters getting their groove back is like what are they actually recapturing, because if they're just like I'm back, baby, then you're the same as you were before. There's nothing, you're not adding anything different. So like Luke getting his groove back, he's like actually doing the very thing that like Jedi are supposed to do instead of what audiences think they're supposed to do or what Luke thought he was supposed to do or whatever. He's like, I will not fight you, father. Fights father.
Yeah.
Gets angry, attacks dad, cuts off his hand. Maybe you didn't do that as perfect as you were supposed to. So like Last Jedi is like, I am doing it. I'm doing it differently. And so for Bob Part, it's about the family, right? And so like he thinks the family's the shackle, but it's also the very thing that saves him. That's great. It's good writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Thank you. It might be the best one from the rest of this list, but that's okay. Because I did not order them in any particular, like, they're good. This one may or may not count because it's kind of just like mixed into the movie. But X-Men Days of Future Past is all about Wolverine going back in time to get Charles Xavier to confront his past mistakes and regain a sense of purpose in uniting mutants. It is literally about Professor X getting his groove back because he gives up.
Okay, you know what? I would not have thought of that for this list, but that's a very compelling summary you just gave.
Okay, well there you go. Thank you.
Yeah. I think that works. I think that fits the mold. That's not how I would have. If I was to explain what's this movie about to somebody, that's not how I would describe it exactly. Like, oh, the movie is about Wolverine doing about, but it is.
Yeah, he is literally going back in time to help him get his groove back. Like, I'm going to say the same thing to you. I don't know why he's Michael Caine, but, like the same thing to you. F off. Like that's
to you that I said to him. And you're only supposed to blow the bloody
doors off. I failed you. It's good. Yeah, I don't know where that accent came from at all, but yeah, getting his bloody groove back. So this is there's a lot of them out there, but it's because we said Michael Caine. Is Muppet Christmas Carol a getting your groove back story? Because you learn that Scrooge used to be happy, and he is literally haunted by his past mistakes and has to get his happy groove back. A part of me says no. Most of me says no, and it only came to my head because we spiraled into Michael Caine. But like we do learn that he was happy. He wasn't always curmudgeon-y. He used to love, and then he didn't. And so just think it's actually kind of fits. We're running out of time, and so I'm gonna breeze through the rest of these.
Okay, yeah, speed run.
Blade Runner 2049. Rick Deckard, retired Blade Runner, reconfronts his humanity and confronts his past as he uncovers a long-buried secret. Kind of gets his groove back. I feel like he hasn't totally lost it, though, so I'm not sure if it, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theater, so...
Same, but that feels right to me, even if it's not he didn't have it, it's like he wasn't using it. He had the groove, but it was on ice.
Yes, okay, all right.
It was a frozen groove, if you will.
Yes, I agree with that. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but A History of Violence with Viggo Mortensen. No. Oh, it's so good. I highly, highly recommend. It's about this guy, Tom Stahl. He's a former mob enforcer, but runs this small town diner, and his violent past kind of comes back to haunt him, and he has to get his groove back to protect the town and the family. It's so good. It's so good. I think it's David Cronenberg. It's really, it's
nice.
Really, really solid 90-minute movie. Highly recommend. This list I was making, this was a suggestion for something else at Rocky, but because does Rocky come out of? I couldn't remember, and I didn't have the time to look it up. Does Rocky come out of retirement for one last fight, or is that the movie Rocky Balboa?
I was going to say Rocky Balboa or Creed. I feel like that's more...
Creed is a good getting a groove back story.
Right?
Yeah. Even though it's Creed's movie, it does give him a new sense of purpose to do something different. So I like Creed better. That's a better answer. Okay. I have two left. Well, three. I don't know if you've ever seen the Lethal Weapon movies, but Lethal Weapon 4 is a just okay groove back movie.
Never seen it with Lethal Weapon 4, but I knew that he was getting too old for this.
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. Okay, so two left. One controversial, one not. Not controversial. Taken with Liam Neeson. Brian Mills, retired CIA operative, comes out of retirement to rescue his daughter from kidnappers with a very specific set of skills.
Exactly.
Yes. It's a great groove backstory. Even though you don't... He's not lost it. You never get the sense he actually lost it. He is retired. So
okay, but again, like the Decker thing, right? It's like he never lost it, but he hasn't used it.
Correct.
It's been on ice. It's a frozen groove.
It's a frozen groove.
It's a frozen groove story.
All right. So here's the last one. You ready? Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yeah.
Getting his groove back. Also,
yeah.
Crystal Skull, same movie. Getting his groove back. Yeah, Crystal Skull. He's
kinda.
In my mind, he's not retired yet. Like he kind of is, but
Yeah.
like it's not the same sadness that you see in Dial of Destiny.
Okay. Here's
So are there two movies that are about Indiana Jones getting his groove back is really the question.
How about Last Crusade, where Henry gets his groove back? Henry Sr. gets his groove back.
Oh, interesting. Did Henry Sr. ever lose his groove? Or was he just always that way? Because he gets, like, kidnapped. That's not really losing his groove. He was, like, on an adventure and gets kidnapped. It's more about does Marcus Brody get his groove back?
True. Indy 4 and 5. That's I need to sit down and parse that a bit more. But that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
5 is definitely getting a groove back story.
He's
not interested in the adventure. He's lost all interest in history and learn in anything and just like surviving. And so it's definitely a groove back story. I don't think it measures up to Logan or Hook or
Agreed.
these other really quality groove back stories, but it wasn't bad.
No, it fits the description. I agree, it's not as good as the others, but it fits that. It does fit.
Sure. So moral of the story is there are a lot of groove back stories out there, and maybe by the time I got to Dial of Destiny, that's why I was kind of over it because like looking back, I'm like. I actually just like when characters like just keep grooving, like you said, Han Solo and Chewie. They're just still doing the thing. He might have lost the hero groove, but he's still kind of grooving. Like he's still
doing the Han Solo groove.
Thing.
Like that was his groove, right? Mm-hmm. It wasn't a Bob Parr, Mr. Incredible groove, but it was Han Solo's groove. Was smuggling and space pirate.
That's what you're right. Yeah.
So he's still buckling the swashes. You know what I mean?
Buckling the swashes. Anyway, that's a great place to end. Frank, where can the people find us?
If you want to head on over to beerwithgeeks.com, you can find this and all of our other nearly 500 episodes. You can search by topic and all that fun stuff, and you can find the links to rate and review us and subscribe to us on any podcast app that you prefer. Those ratings and reviews really do help us, so please take a moment to do that if you haven't already. And if you haven't already, head on over to patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio to kick us a couple bucks and help us to keep paying to make these shows.
To keep grooving.
Our groove.
Keep the groove.
We don't want any frozen grooves.
No frozen grooves here. No sirree, Bob. Anyway, Bob Parr. No sirree, Bob Parr. Hey. Frank, always a pleasure to talk to you. Until next time, cheers.
Cheers.